Hello, you're watching World Talks on TVP World. My name is Sascha Fahrbach. On Thursday, Brussels hosts all 27 EU leaders for a summit shaped by immediate geopolitical and economic pressures. War in Iran, Hungary's €90 billion standoff over Ukraine, and how to deal with the United States, as well as surging electricity costs. Add to that, 10 countries, including Poland, have called on the European Commission to address concerns over the EU emissions trading system. Now, to help us understand it all, we welcome Marcin Bużański, Director, Center for Diplomacy and Negotiation, Collegium Civitas. Good to have you on TVP World again. Welcome.
Hello, good to be you too.
So it's a packed summit. It was supposed to be about competition. It's about many things. But what in your mind, let's make it local and international, for Poland specifically, what are the main issues here that are going to be addressed at this summit?
Well, it's a very critical summit, and the agenda is extremely packed, and the geopolitical events have made it even bigger. I mean, specifically for Poland, of course, first and foremost is the question of Ukraine, and it is extremely important to try to convince Viktor Orban to get back to his commitment of the deal and allow further funding to be secured. Now, it's not clear that this will happen. It is assumed that some kind of an agreement can be reached, especially after President Zelensky has said he will allow inspections and he will allow fixes to the Druzhba pipeline. But bottom line is that for Orban, primarily, this is a campaign move. His elections are coming up very soon, in the 12th of April. His position is fragile, and he's banking on anti-Ukrainian sentiment, anti-war sentiment, and he's trying to score points in this council meeting specifically for that purpose. So it's going to be a hard discussion. There is a lot of rumors, waves that leaders in the EU have really grown tired of Orban, that he has really crossed the line. But I think that they're waiting to find out what happens in the elections next month, really, to see if more hard measures can be taken towards Hungary. The other things, of course, is the question of the energy crisis that sort of connects with the whole ETS policy of the EU, and the question of to what extent there'll be loosening of the tight regulations when it comes to coals, when it comes to emissions, something that Poland is advocating for, since, of course, it still has a very big coal dependency. That is changing, but in terms of immediate needs and in terms of rising prices, which are rising energy prices, the effect, of course, of the war in the Middle East, this is something that leaders in the EU will need to address urgently on this summit. And finally, of course, a unified response to the crisis in the Middle East. That is something that leaders will need to discuss, and because it has such a clear connection to both the energy prices and to Ukraine, that's something that Poland will be looking out to have a strong voice as well in.
Yeah, and I think in all those issues you mentioned, there is one thread which does seem to be energy prices very much on the focus there with all these different things and crises. I want to ask you on that note particularly, I mean, there was this letter, actually, this was released and signed yesterday, 10 European leaders, including Poland as well, very much against, or rather want this review of this ETS, of this emission trading system, very much pushed by the Commission. They want the Commission to be more flexible there. Why is this so crucial, and what kind of, let's say, success will come out of this summit or failure in terms of this issue?
Look, this issue has become much more important because of the war in the Middle East. We have soaring energy prices, and this is affecting, of course, the prices of petrol. This is, of course, affecting the prices of energy, and this is something that will have an direct impact on populations and on voters. So it's very clear that countries who are most affected, and this is either from the element of still using quite a lot of coal, which is the case of Poland, or, for instance, in terms of being over-dependent on gas, which is the case of Italy, who's also signed this letter, then we're really facing a sort of well, we can say emergency or energy emergency that leaders want to address very, very fast. Now, there's another angle to all of this. The rising prices of energy are also a direct support for Russia, immediate support to Russia's coffers, allowing them to continue their aggression on Ukraine. And this is coming at a very difficult moment for Russia, actually, on the front lines, where Ukraine has been gaining some territory, where Russia has been clearly having manpower issues and couldn't pay their troops. Now, so this is really helping Russia's aggression, and considering what the situation looks like right now with the blocking of the Hormuz Strait, we are in a line to have even higher oil prices. Oil could even reach $150 per barrel. This is a scenario for a recession, worldwide recession in Europe. Now, that's not something where energy prices, where you want energy prices high up. So this is there are emergency measures here, and that's on one side. On the other side, there's a whole question of really pushing the competitiveness agenda, and this is something that this summit was originally supposed to be about. Now, countries are arguing, we can't do both things at the same time. Immediately shift to renewables, make really big compromises on those emission trading systems. At the same time, supporting our markets for competitiveness, allowing less taxation, allowing more flexibility here for companies to grow and to invest in this whole sector. So it's a question of finding hard compromises, and these need to be found. But there's also a flip side to this, and it's a valid point from many countries which are raising the issue, particularly the Nordics and Spain, and saying, look, I mean, the war in Iran, what we're seeing now, this is a clear picture that we need to shift quicker to renewables, because this is the only way to guarantee our energy autonomy and to be resilient to such shocks and be able to really defend ourselves in the future as the whole of Europe. So again, this will be, as usually, finding hard compromises, which is something that the EU is really based on, and we'll have to see which side comes closer to their objectives.
Mm-hmm. And also, I mean, you mentioned already, we talked about it, it's definitely going to be addressed, is the issue of Iran, also that relationship with the United States, what Europe's role should be. I mean, many of those countries have already ruled out any sort of force at the moment, but given the urgency, at the end of this summit, what do you reckon the leadership here, all these European leaders gathered, will there be something concrete on that policy for European countries towards Iran?
Look, first and foremost, I think it's very important that there is a clear, unified stance from all Europe and all countries. We have been missing this in the last few weeks. There were conflicting messaging coming out from European capitals, from Merz first backing then the aggression, then sort of backing out, from the European Commission, different statements from Kaja Kallas, the VP, and from Ursula von der Leyen. So all of this has to come into one clear and strong position from the EU, which of course is a victim of this war because of rising prices, because of potential for a future wave of refugees, for many reasons. Now, that's the first thing, to have a common position. The second thing is to try and see, to on one hand take action to stabilize and allow shipping lines to be open in the Strait of Hormuz, and this is of course in Europe's interest, but it's also important that Europe is not dragged into a war that it didn't start and that it doesn't take on those consequences. So this will be, a fine line to find a position here for Europe, which I think will be that we first of all pressure Iran to stop all of its attacks on countries in the Gulf. Second of all, that the Strait of Hormuz and shipping line have to be open, and that the EU has a lot of naval activities that potentially could be upgraded to engage in some kind of operations. Third, that a cessation of hostilities, a cessation of fighting should happen as soon as possible. And fourth, that there is an upending to the international law, and that the EU stands behind international law, which has been quite a big issue when it comes to an agreement. The Spanish Prime Minister famously is very, very much supporting this position. Countries closer to the US are are more delicately threading this line, but it's important that a common statement out of the EU comes up that international law should be upheld and followed, and that right now with the whole crisis there should be as quick as possible a cessation of hostilities. But of course, there's also the question of Iranian's nuclear program and Iran's hostile activities outside in the region, and there will be probably also a statement that these, in any case, need to be halted and have to be stopped.
All right, so let's all a very packed summit, full agenda. Let's see if Antonio Costa can keep that one-day summit as he likes to have it. Thanks for all that. Really appreciate it. Marcin Bużański there.
Pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
And thank you for watching. Concludes World Talks. We'll see you right here on TVP World for more. Goodbye.